finally, I've been waiting to review this game. Like, so many games I've been playing, and this was the main one that I was trying to get through to first, but I took my time with Space Marine. That's all I gotta say. I took my time with Space Marine 2. And now, note, I've never played the first one. The only games I have played in the continuity of the Space Marine games is Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun and this one. Now, what is this one about? Well, I know you play as Captain Titus, one of the Ultramarines, or codename Ultra Smurfs. You go on a campaign to basically fight off the forces of the Tyranids and the forces of Chaos. Now, I'm very unfamiliar with the enemies of the first game because I heard that there's a, well, not really heard, I've seen it myself. There's a lot of references to the first game, and I've only seen the first game in clips. But every chapter, every level across the 3 planets you visit, it is so goddamn fun to just fight, destroy, and purge everything. Even if you don't know what the fuck is going on, even if you are a Warhammer newbie like me and you don't know what the hell is going on, this game at least feels, in my personal opinion, this feels like a throwback game. It feels like a good old third-person action game from the early days, just with pretty graphics. These guys basically put the COG soldiers from Gears of War to shame. This is what you could imagine the Gears of War soldiers on steroids. Because this game, it plays like a third-person action game, but it's not a typical third-person action shooter, if that makes any sense. Now, what I mean by that is that you don't duck into cover, you don't really block. I mean, you can block, but it's just to deflect enemies. You are a walking tank, a walking indomitable force of wrath. You know, sent by the grace of fucking Ultramar to slay heretics. Now, the performances, though, in the game, I do like the characters, even though I don't know much about these guys. I know more about the Blood Ravens and the Blood Angels because I like that faction. But the characters here, I could see why. They're very, today, they would get chastised. I mean, today they'll probably get chastised for being stoic. But yes, these are some stoic-ass Space Marines. Their job is to go in and not play fucking games with you. The cutscenes are in gameplay, like they're in engine, and they're really good. You know, you see the details in the characters. You know, if you're a fan of Warhammer, I'm sure this pleases you. Getting into Warhammer myself for the past few years, and I'm still learning everything as much as I can. So, bear with me when I don't know what the hell these stories are about. But in this game's story, I see that there was a lot of deception, there was a lot of doubt amongst the soldiers. There was a whole era of mystery behind Captain Titus and what he had done or why he was, what's the word? I want to use the right words here because I know in Warhammer they have different terms. Say dishonored and demoted, because they do talk about he gets demoted a lot. You get yelled at by a fucking chaplain throughout most of the game. But what you're really going to be looking at is the amazing set pieces, the big battles. This is what you can imagine when you're playing the tabletop game or playing a game where you'll see what's going off in the distance. You see what's going on in the distance. Swarms of Tyranids, swarms of enemies, but the battle comes to you. It feels good walking along, seeing these battles. It reminds me of playing a third-person action version of the Dawn of War games. Now, I know Dawn of War is a strategy game, but if you can imagine Dawn of War being a third-person action game, it would be more in line with how Space Marine 2 plays. Space Marine has, this one in particular, I love the melee combat, I love the gun combat. Now, I notice only one thing among all the Warhammer games I own. A lot of weapons are reused, and I know maybe there's just not a lot of weapon choices amongst the Space Marines themselves. I mean, I could play Necromunda Hired Gun, I play Dark Tide, I play this, I play Space Hulk Deathwing, and a lot of the weapons just feel familiar. And I figure that's probably why each Marine class, I noticed every Marine chapter has their own unique weapons. Of course, there's the standard weapons, your bolter, heavy bolter, shields, swords, axes, the whole 9 yards. But how these Marines play is determined on you, because you can customize their abilities. You could take different guns with you. At least the amount of guns in this game, it's a healthy amount. You level up to get cosmetics. Sometimes the guns, you don't specifically level up the gun itself, like with skill points. The gun or your weapons level up as you get kills, which unlock different skins and then make the weapon maybe slightly stronger or better to use. Now, there's also the option of playing this game with your friends. I streamed this game solo. Unfortunately, I didn't have my buddies at the time to play this with me, but I could tell that this would be even more phenomenal playing with your friends. This game right here is designed to play with somebody or two people, because you're only going in of squads of 3. That's the same for the story. That will be the same for the co-op. Now in the multiplayer, that's different. I think it's 6v6 in the multiplayer, or 8v8. I'm not sure. I forgot the number. But when you are in the heat of battle against like the Tyranids, for example, they're just like swarms and swarms of these suckers. They will remind you of the locusts from Gears of War. But unlike the Gears of War locusts where you gotta hide behind cover, you are the cover, you are the weapon, and you are the crowd control. You get indicators of when an enemy is going to jump on you, and you can deflect and kill them. There's execution moves based on what melee weapon you have. My personal favorite being the power sword and the chain sword. But every weapon's unique animations or kills, they never get old. Yes, you'll recognize them throughout the game, but they happen at random. There's no set way or set button to choose which kill you do. The kills remain fresh as you go through, and they're also different depending on enemy type. Enemy types go from miniature to moderate to mini bosses to semi bosses to big bosses themselves. And that just kept the whole campaign feeling refreshed. The campaign is a roller coaster ride. You know, to those who know what's going on in the story of the Space Marine games, of course I'm sure it feels very rewarding to people who have been playing Space Marine 1 all the way to Bolt Gun and now here. I don't know if you could count Bolt Gun as like an in-between sequel, because technically that means this would be a trilogy of games. But other games have done that in the past, and same with movies where there's a part 1, there's a movie that seems like a side chapter, but then it becomes like it's part of the main continuity, so it feels like the middle chapter. And this game really feels like a third chapter act in a part 2 type setting, especially towards the end. The one thing I really do like is when you march into these battles, you hear the chaplain, you hear Space Marines, you hear them giving their battle speeches. And at one point while I was streaming, I would just sit there and listen. I would not move until the speech was done, because I wanted to go in with the blessings of the God Emperor to see me through the fight. Now don't get me wrong, the game may seem easy depending on what difficulty you play, but one thing I know about Warhammer games that I've experienced across all the board, they don't play when it comes to difficulty. When you want to crank up the difficulty settings, it can be whoo, let's just say you're gonna feel like a lone guardsman against an army of heretics. But when you destroy them all, it's rewarding, especially if you have your brothers with you at your side. Now the set pieces in the game, though, that's another thing I really like, is how these battles start. I even like the reference in the game where it says, the Codex Astartes does not support this action. But one of the Marines was like, but I'm going to enjoy this anyway. Is it heresy for these guys to have fun doing their job? 'Cause I don't know if that's just me. But I take it like, these Marines are like, you know what? We want to enjoy killing heretics. Even if the Astartes doesn't approve how we do it, we're gonna fucking do it. I mean, if I was the God Emperor himself, I would be like, you know what? I know this seems heretical. Just 1 year probation for you guys, but you did a good job. You blew up the enemy. Now, when it's all said and done and the campaign is over, you will be coming back to the ship. Now, Once there, you'll be going and be tasked with what is Operations Mode and Eternal War. Now, Operations Mode is what we're going to get into next. It's a separate co-op campaign, and that is always a good thing when you have a game that has the main story that you're going to play with your friends. Like, you could play it through by yourself or with friends. But this one has 7 levels, and hopefully as the game gets updated, more levels, because they really went in with the PvE content a little more than the PvP. You get 6 classes to try to master. They're all different, they're all unique. You can customize armor. This is what I forgot to mention about the story segment. You could customize armor a little bit on Titus, but when you get into the cooperative campaign and to the multiplayer section, you could pick a class and earn points to unlock different chapter Astartes, or exclusively to the multiplayer, you could also upgrade the Heretic Astartes. Yes, you play as heretics in multiplayer, and you play as the Space Marines. Now, what you're going to do when you get here is you're going to want to customize your character. You're going to want to go in with a Marine that is unique to you. Like, I got my Iron Man Marine drip, you know, and it teaches you the abilities. You could look in what your character can do. And there's also trials, which are like little bonus missions to do in mission for more experience. And each class in the cooperative campaign can be useful as the user who uses it. You know, this is a... I know I've been saying this a lot with Warhammer games, but Warhammer just shares this in common thread of risk versus reward. Certain classes are good for certain situations, and there are certain classes that are not good for certain situations. Now, in co-op, co-op gives you a feel of playing with all the weapons, playing with all different character abilities, and customizing armor of the different chapters of Astartes. And let's just say there's a lot to customize here. Between DLC costumes, between main unlocked costumes, and the good thing is this game, but all I know, has no microtransactions, so you feel good when you want to unlock your favorite faction of Astartes or unlock different pieces, parts, colors, and level up to gain more customization options. You could create your own looking Space Marine unique to the factions that you like in the universe. That's something that I really enjoy, is creation. Creation and creating a character that makes you feel like you are part of the battle, that you are part of the universe itself. Now, the co-op missions also can vary in difficulty, which would also determine what bonuses you get or what world effects happen, the enemy's difficulty, the rate of which enemies spawn, but also changing the chances of higher rewards. Now, what you're going to do is get accustomed to playing each difficulty, because then if you play each difficulty and you level up accordingly, the way I did it was, before I even moved to the second difficulty of co-op, I waited 15, at least 10 to 15 levels, and then went into the next difficulty, got to level 20, went to the third difficulty. You know, it just, how do I say this? The game does have a grind. That's the one part. One of the other parts that I feel is, okay, Space Marine always has cool armor. Warhammer always has unique customizations across any game. It's just that they teeter on normal grind where you feel good getting it and excessive grind. It's like they teeter that line a little bit. But it does matter, because then at the end of the day you don't need to pay for microtransactions. So anyway, back to the co-op campaign. The story for the co-op campaign is you're actually playing the battles that happen outside, or not outside, alongside the main campaign. Like when you're in the main campaign and you're hearing communication comms between your other battle brothers or other characters that you really don't see in the campaign besides in the cutscenes, you're playing their battles. You can either play as them, which the basic co-op skins are based on the guys that you see during the main campaign, the other Ultramarines, or you customize your own Ultramarine based on the faction of chapters that you prefer. And then when you get into these battles, they feel like a true extension of the main campaign. It's almost like you're playing two campaigns, and that is very good for the value price of a single at least if this was a single player game only, like single player and co-op, this alone would have been good, you know? But when they added multiplayer, it just felt like a bonus. You would think these modes would feel tacked on, co-op and multiplayer, but not really. They set the foundation. Games Workshop set the foundation for being able to build upon an already good baseline. Like, unlike other multiplayer games or games that get updated later that are built on a house of cards, this game is built on the blood and sweat and the body of its enemies. So, it has a strong foundation to build off of. And all I gotta say is, fuck the fucking Chaos Astartes. I'm gonna say it right now, in the story mode and in the campaign, co-op campaign, these guys are fucking annoying. That's why it feels good when I execute the shit out of them. Do you have any idea how much these fucking Chaos Astartes get on my goddamn nerves? Okay? I can deal with Tyranids. They're bugs. These fucking guys come at you in swarms. I mean, some of these guys look like they came out of fucking God of War. And I'm not talking about God of War Ragnarok, and I'm not talking about God of War 2018. I'm talking about the OG. These look like Greek enemies with battle armor, which is actually fucking awesome to think about it. Holy shit. But there was a detail that, little fun fact, my buddy Beatmaster told me that I thought these guys had bodies underneath their armor, and he says no, they're just vessels. These armors are empty, and I was wondering why when I was tearing them apart or ripping their heads off, you see like this space dust or whatever fly out the neck hole. So now I know. These guys are neither living nor dead. They're just trying to find a way to reverse this, because I've been listening to lore videos and I know the Chaos Astartes are trying to reverse things. But once you get through the co-op campaign, the last thing that is in this game, which is, even though you would think it would be a disappointment because, yes, there's only 3 maps for the multiplayer, for the Eternal War, and you're like, wait, what? Loads Stone Bolter, readies Battle Axe, and Power Armor. No, calm down, listen to this, look, let me, even though there's 3 maps across all the game modes, these fights never get boring. I'm gonna tell you that right now. The fights in this game, or in the multiplayer mode, are not boring whatsoever. Now, it also follows a very easy to follow format. You customize your character based on different classes. It's very much the same thing as the co-op, except here you can customize the Chaos Marines. Yes, you can play as Chaos Marines because they're the enemy faction of the game, but there's also certain skins, certain color schemes, certain armor sets, certain weapon abilities, and character abilities that you can only use in the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer does build a good foundation to get better. It's up to you whether you invest all the time in the multiplayer. I've been playing the multiplayer. I enjoy it. Something about playing Warhammer multiplayer, whether it's expanded, whether it's minimal, whether it's somewhere in between, you never get bored fighting in this universe. Maybe because this universe is built on war. It's built on destruction, built on death, built on heresy, and built on justice and destroying corruption. There's always something fucking going on. But there's 3 game modes. There's Siege Ground, Capture, Control, and Annihilation. Siege Ground is basically your basic domination. Whoop-de-fucking-do. But the thing is, it's fun rolling around as these loaded power... Basically, these guys are like walking semi-trucks. You're wondering, how the fuck am I rolling around dodging bullets? But mastering the level is easy. You'll know where enemies come from, you'll know what back points to look for, and you'll know what ways that they could try to flank you, or you could flank them. The maps are tailored to the abilities of the characters, despite there only being 3. Now, the second game mode, it's very similar to Call of Duty's Hardpoint. If you're familiar with that, it's kind of like a one base type of domination where the point moves. You obviously capture the one point, fight for it, build up as many points as you can, timer, move to the next one. But it's so fast paced with the Space Marines, that you're moving from point A to point B to capture, fight, capture, run to the next objective. You're always on the move in this mode. And it does create unpredictable situations, especially with a lot of levels. Not a lot of levels, what am I fucking saying? I'm already thinking of the future of this game. Which, I mean, it looks like it's going to have a bright future, I hope. These 3 levels have points that are, especially this one cathedral level, has these choke points that are from either the outside, the inside, or the tunnels below, or the little halls below. And especially when you're playing Domination or Siege the Ground or whatever, you're playing it here, battles here get really intense, especially you need to watch your front, your back, your left, and your right, because enemies can come from any direction, and melee is especially dangerous in close quarters, especially if you're fighting a bulwark or somebody with a damn power hammer. It gets serious out there. I've gotten used to it, but at first, I admit, when I first started playing, I was getting my ass handed to me. But as I persisted and got better and learned how to use the weapons effectively and use my environment, it becomes one of the best times ever. I mean, I played these games for hours. I've been putting in multiple hours in Darktide. Before Darktide, I'm putting multiple hours in this. Now I'm like balancing this, Marvel Rivals, and Darktide, which that review will be coming up. I wouldn't say soon, but it's almost done. That's all I gotta say. But Space Marine 2 is loaded with a ton to do. If you're a fan that's been waiting for the sequel for this long, is it worth it to you? As somebody who never played the first one, who's only played Bolt Gun and played this one and different Warhammer games, to me, I would say this game is worth it, and I'm looking forward to the future of where this game goes. The developers seem pretty adamant and pretty hopeful that they're going to continue this with DLC, and I'll continue to stream it forward. You know, whatever they add new, I'll stream it, talk about it, and just show it off. But Space Marine 2, it's a phenomenal game in my opinion. It's worth the value. It has a lot to do. Play with your friends, play solo, either one. This is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming. Be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, and I'll see you all in the next video or live stream. Take care.